But that's the problem. Like with the web, we tuned out banner ads. They weren't personal enough for us to care, and they were annoying. Many of these algorithms in the early sort of versions of these tracking tools, they're still not much smarter. They're pretty dumb, and they send you, even on Netflix or Hulu, you get this situation where the recommended, back to my entertainment thing. They don't know me well enough to know that really like my sort of eclectic nature of watching a horror movie and wanting to watch this other one versus something else. So I think it goes back to sort of the big data problem that we always talk about of how do you provide more intelligence there.
And the interesting thing I find is we all personalize this technology, this Internet of Things, but the majority of the use cases, the majority of the value are not going to be personalizing ads for us. Mm-hmm. It's going to be things talking to things talking to processes, actually allowing, hate to take it to business for a second, but we are at a business conference, right? Allow businesses to better utilize technology, better utilize assets, to reduce costs, to free up capital, to invest in new cool things that we'll all go out and buy because they'll be shiny and flashy and connected, and actually changing the way society can move forward in order to drive new business models. One of the examples that we talk about a lot is jet engines on planes. You used to buy a jet engine and you put it on a plane. You owned the plane, you owned the jet engine. And nowadays, you rent power by the hour. And all the sensor data that's coming off there, millions of messages are coming off, allow it to be tuned to optimal efficiency, reducing fuel costs, better for the environment. And then we see that same thing coming into automotive. We've got a partner that we're showing here that's actually looking at something that they call eHorizon. And all the sensors on your car today, at best, look a couple of 100 yards out. Yeah. Tie that to the cloud, tie that to data from all these other sources, and now you're talking miles and miles out that you can look at weather, you can look at traffic conditions, and actually dynamically change the way the car is driving to better fuel efficiency, lower emissions, et cetera. And that's kind of exciting to me.
Yeah, so for example, Waze knows when rain is coming, and it says, you're about to hit a thunderstorm. Yeah, and like that, if your car could suddenly realize, we're getting into wet, road conditions, I'm going to change the traction on the wheels and kind of take control of that scenario. I saw a commercial last night for some of the new the Lexuses that can actually, full on stop the car if they think that there's an object in front of it. And that sounds great. It also sounds kind of terrifying, right? Because suddenly, even though you may have been about to hit, a cardboard box in the middle of the road, or maybe it's a child, losing control of the car and having the car take over gets a little scary for me. I don't want to hit anything, but I also don't want the car to just break if there's something, that's not going to really damage me or the car or anything else in the middle of the road.
But again, it's a transition thing, right? Because when cars added anti-lock brakes, before that, you stomped down on the brake and your car would spin out of control and you would die. So you were taught, never stomp down. Anti-lock brakes came out and everyone went, oh, I touched it and it went brrr, and I stopped. And it's like, no, that's the behavior. That's what you want. So with things like adaptive cruise control, where I can tell when the car in front of me is speeding up and slow down, and the car will dynamically adjust. Like you're losing control, but it's becoming safer. And I love driving.
Me too.
Yep, it's fun stuff, but I can't wait till I'm old and decrepit, where I can say, I want to go somewhere, get in my car, and it just takes me there. Right? So it's the use case taking me across that creepy line to the point where it's kind of fun now. Again, I can actually still do things.
So you've got to move to the West Coast and get in the Google Car Pilot, right? Yeah, the pod, and those pods will be customized. I think you'll have a pod for your children that's like a playpen, and then you'll have a pod for you that has whatever video games or something. Yeah, exactly. And there was already an expose or just an op-ed that talked about how Budweiser must be thrilled that driverless cars are coming out. But okay, I'm going to tee up one last topic. So we talked about cars. Yeah. We're big on cars. We've talked about glass. We've talked about the Magic Band. We've talked about mobile a little bit. But what about everyone's sort of drones are, I don't know. Everyone is sort of interested. They're perplexed. There's government is already heavily regulations. They're already heavily involved in what you can and can't do. But yet, there are a lot of cool things that are unlocked by just having the potential for me building something with my 13-year-old son that we can, we're not flying, but we're doing cool things with aviation. So, what do you think is maybe either a good use that you want to see happen versus, like Jack Bauer trying to save the world from drones, sort of killing everyone?
Well, so I read Kill Decision, right? So drones, but realistically, I've been trying to figure out what I would use one for, because I've been trying to get one just to play with, and it's like I want to look at the flashing on my fireplace outside, right? Nothing really exciting. Delivery, that's kind of interesting, but I think it's not drones or drone singular that's interesting. It's drones and what you can do. And I've seen a couple of videos of some researchers doing stuff with using that same behavior that we see in the book Kill Decision, of smart networks of drones being used to build or to do things, get into areas and scan for victims in a collapsed building.
Yes,
I was talking with
taking all my use cases.
sorry, I was talking to the guys at iRobot recently, and they were talking about.
One use case.
You can't do it. You can't. And the drones that are doing underwater, right? The submarine drones. Those are really cool. And we saw that recently in the news too. So I'll stop taking your use cases. Go for it.
Well, I think the discussion of drones can go two very different ways. I mean, there's the discussion of drones being used in the military sense that I think we're all probably still a little bit uncomfortable with. There's not too many ways about it. But then there's drones that you can use for search and rescue. There's drones that you can use. Actually, there's robots and drones that can be used in the police forces to actually be able to scan areas for suspects and go into unsafe situations where you don't really want to send a police officer or a dog in, to look for explosives or to look for someone who could potentially be dangerous. And then there's things like sending out drones to follow pods of whales that you might normally not be able to get shots of or see out in the wild, or under the water with these submarine drones that you were talking about. So there's so many different utilities. There's so many different ways that we can use this technology for research and for observation. And then the second I said observation, I'm like, oh great, a drone's gonna fly up to my hotel window and watch me while I'm changing. I think that's the weird still consumer fear that we have, that creepy dude down in apartment 1B is going to send his drone up to check out my apartment, while I'm not home or something like that. But like we said before, with all of these technologies, there's always a period of getting used to it, of understanding that it kind of comes with the good and the bad, and learning how to use these technologies to improve our lives and to make them more interesting and more fun and more convenient, and also learning how to deal with the side of it that is maybe a loss of privacy or something on the nefarious side. But pretty much every technology has been used for something, evil related in the last 100 years. Yeah. I mean, nothing is perfect. And I think we do ourselves a disservice by letting fear get in the way of progress.
Absolutely agree with you. I think that's something that we as technologists have to think about. There's a lot of things that are really cool, but we also have to think about what's the cool factor, and then how do we make it acceptable, right? And I don't mean acceptable in the nefarious terms. I mean, what are the right use cases? And sometimes that does require regulation. Sometimes it just requires common sense. But that doesn't mean we should stop trying to advance technology and build this stuff and figure out what we want to do with it. So it's kind of cool stuff.
All right. So this has been cool. Thank you very much for doing this. I want to give you, this is the moment where I stump you. So what is your favorite, back to my entertainment questions, what is your favorite movie from either 80s, 90s, whenever, that you would say kind of gave you either like a funny take on the future, or terrible take, or scary, or happy take?
Do you want to go first? Or
I'll let you go first.
Hackers.
Yes.
Hackers is still... Yes, all right, I got to it first. That's why I grabbed the microphone. Hackers is like, I still love that movie. It's so bad, but it's so good. Probably also something like Existenz or, all these weird futuristic movies from my childhood and youth. So yeah, those are probably two of them up there.
Okay, since you took Hackers, I'm going to say the original Tron.
Okay.
I mean, not Tron, sorry. Tron would be good too. I like Tron. Matter of fact, quick aside, I actually, when I was a consultant, worked with the company that built the monitors for that movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. They had all these Tron posters everywhere, and I was like, oh, sweet. Anyway, but RoboCop, original RoboCop,
yes.
I'd buy that for $1.
That was I would say that's kind of like the predecessor to Minority Report with that sort of stuff. But so mine is going to be.
Password and God is their password.
Oh, I know. There's studies that show that it's disturbingly, a huge percentage.
But they use a 0.
All right, so I'm going to wrap it up. Mine would be The Net with Sandra Bullock, and so because for me that is like almost a perfect, analogy to what could go wrong with the Internet of Things. They reprogram everything that was in her path to make it look like she had done the crime and killed a guy with the wrong medication in the hospital. All that stuff.
Oh, I watched it. No.
Yeah.
Like a demon from
Yeah,
Daniel Suarez.
Yep.
We're pimping the Daniel Suarez here.
Yeah.
Techno thrillers.
Good stuff.
So thank you very much, Veronica. Thank you very much, Michael. We should do it again sometime. Thank you all for watching, and we're going to sign off. See you soon.